Welcome back to the Racial Draft Podcast. I am your host, Michael Ford, joined by the amazing Julia Delbel. Julia, how's it going?
Hi, it's going good. Thanks.
Well, this is if this is your first episode, I apologize, but we're going to try to do what we do every week, and that is change the complexion of the comic book universe one draft pick at a time. But first, nerd news. The biggest nerd news of the week has got to be the formal announcement, the confirmation that Daredevil is indeed returning with his own series in the works at Disney Plus, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know how otherwise to say it, but our guy is back. Do you have any strong thoughts about that, Julia?
I'm excited. I feel like this was inevitable, especially after Charlie Cox appeared in No Way Home. So yeah, I figured he'd be coming back in some form, probably series, and I think he's going to be making some appearances in some other shows as well before his own show starts. So that'll be cool too. So he'll be introduced to the MCU officially, and then he'll have his own show. So we will see what happens with that.
Now, I mean, I have heard some of those same rumors. Do you think that he will be, um, one of the rumors is She-Hulk, which, more on that later. But do you think it will be more of a Matt Murdock and not a Daredevil appearance in that respect?
I guess in that one, I'm thinking the one where he's gonna go full Daredevil as Echo
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I don't think we know exactly when that's due to premiere, but
next
we do have a
year.
little bit of news about Echo that we'll get into a little bit later as well. But I guess I should say a little bit more about this series because we do know the writers, Matt Corman and Chris Ord. I guess they'll be the co-head writers, co-showrunners for the series. I don't know a lot of what they've worked on. Covert Affairs, I have never watched. What about you?
Um, Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, I said Corman and Ord, they created the series Covert Affairs,
Oh,
um, but I've never watched it. I don't know if you
I
have.
haven't heard that show.
What did you say about the show? I'm sorry.
I haven't heard of it.
Oh, okay, it was on the USA network. I mean, I've heard of it. I just don't know a lot about it. I mean, it was a spy series, so I mean, I imagine they know how to do a little bit of action, a little bit of intrigue. I don't know, like I said, having not seen the show, I don't know what the hallmarks of the show were in terms of, whether it was in keeping with earlier seasons of Daredevil. But I guess we'll find out. I mean, they've had a lot of time to gestate this series and figure out exactly what they want to bring to the table in terms of their vision of Daredevil in the MCU. And I guess that brings a kind of bigger question. It has not been officially confirmed. I mean, there was a lot of kind of murky language about what it means. I think the term was new and continuing, which you know seems a little bit of conflicted. Um, but the idea, of whether the Daredevil and or Matt Murdock and or continuity of the Netflix series will somehow be picked up on in this MCU version. Do you have? I mean, sorry, in this Marvel Studios version, rather. Do you have a preference?
I would like it to continue from the series where, like, I at least don't want them to say it's not canon. I would like them to, I guess it's what they'll probably do is a soft reboot where they're not going to reference what happened a lot, but they won't make it not canon. Like, they'll make it fit with it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess there were so many things that happened over the 3-year run of Daredevil that made it feel like a lot of progress was made. In terms of, like, not, it wasn't just his origin. It was, he fought Kingpin. he has his first introduction to Elektra as a villain. He meets the Hand. He meets the Punch. I mean, there are so many things that sort of happened over the course of that series that I'd love to see Marvel, Kevin Feige and, sort of their take on these events. And I would hate for them to be completely beholden to the things that happened under Jeff Loeb's watch, particularly with respect to, some of the things that we heard a little bit later, more recently, about kind of how Asian characters were very marginalized.
Right.
In particular, a lot of people were underwhelmed by the Hand, and the Hand plays such a major role in Daredevil mythos that it would be great to get another shot at the Hand without having to respect the continuity of what came before.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind that either. At this point, all I can think about is people bitching online, and that's been like the story with this whole thing lately, and it's just been frustrating me a lot. So whatever is going to cause less complaining, I'm guessing. And I feel like that's keeping the continuity, but I don't know.
I think you should know that there's no option that will lead to no complaining.
Not no complaining, I know that, but like less complaining, I will settle for.
Yeah, they'll be complaining regardless, and it'll be surprising because some of the same people who would complain about one outcome will also complain about the other outcome. But like I said, I mean, without knowing 100%, I am more in favor of the soft reboot where they can say that certain things happened without confirming that everything happened.
That makes
And
sense.
what do you say?
That makes sense.
And then that way they don't have to answer these thorny questions about like, well, where were you when Thanos, and where were you during the blip, and like, how does this match up with this? Or, you can just kind of say, yeah, it's murky. It's murky. Some things happen, some things didn't happen. You'll find out. Another big thing for me, and this is just kind of a me preference thing, because of how gritty and grounded, those buzzwords, the Netflix series were, I felt like they kind of nerfed Daredevil a little bit, almost to the point where you're not even sure that he has superpowers. And, the MCU likes their superpowers. And I definitely would like an interpretation of Daredevil that makes it clear that he's, a superhero, as opposed to just a guy who trained really hard.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the extent of the Daredevil news. It's big news for, those of, I know a few people who are part of the Save Daredevil movement, and I'm sure they're really happy to hear that they, in fact, managed to save Daredevil. So shout out to them. We are also joined by Carlos.
That's me.
Do you feel like you saved Daredevil in any respect?
Do I feel like I saved Daredevil?
Yes, you in particular.
I mean, yes, clearly. No, no. I think I don't think. I think this was always the plan, was to bring them in eventually. Personally.
Yes, I do think it was the plan to bring them in eventually. I don't know if it was always a plan to bring back these characters played by the same actors with at least some recognition of what would have happened in the previous incarnation.
That's probably true. But I do think that there were that is a respect, I guess, where I could say that we, the internet, saved some of what was good about the Netflix series, because, when you're going to cast Kingpin, whoever is not Vincent D'Onofrio that you get to play Kingpin, we're all going to be like, yeah, but did you see Vincent D'Onofrio play Kingpin?
Right.
Yeah.
But even those of us, we talked about it when we talked about Hawkeye. The way that D'Onofrio, I won't say the way he played Kingpin, but the way that the show portrayed Kingpin seemed like enough of a departure from how he was portrayed in the Netflix series for them to say, oh no, it's just Kingpin, but this isn't like the same guy from Netflix.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's the same actors in a different, with a different prism.
Exactly. So but it still remains to be seen. I did ask Julia the same question, but I'll ask it to you. If you had a preference in terms of whether they would just outright continue what happened on Netflix versus whether they would start fresh or versus whether they do some kind of soft reboot, what are your, like, what would you prefer to be the way that they would tackle what happened on Netflix?
If I had to choose between a full-on start from scratch with the same general cast, or continue what was at Netflix, I would prefer to start from scratch. I think that when the Netflix series got invested in dragon fossils and bringing back ninjas from the dead, it got real muddy across the board. I think like that's the weakest stuff in Daredevil, is when they're the Elektra resurrection stuff. I just think it wasn't handled very well. And I think that if you start from scratch, now you can tie it into the Shang-Chi universe and mythology, and now we've seen, like, afterlives are a thing that can be, come back from. You can return from the field of reeds or whatever. So now tell that story now with that, if you want to tell that story now with this mythology tied into it, it feels a little better than what they did at Netflix, which was like, they were trying their best, and it was clearly like not as much of a budget as Marvel was giving the movies. But it just that all of that never really sat well with me.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I had mentioned, well, sorry, I'll say two things. The first is that I also give the option of like the soft reboot, where, it's similar actors, similar cast members, but, they can pick and choose what they want to have count, what they, don't want to have count. And then they can, like you said, they can revisit certain things. The other thing for me personally is that, like you said, the budgets were lower. It was a ground, the aesthetic was much different from the aesthetic that we get in Marvel Studios style, whatever we want to call it, the infamous color palette, if you will. But the downside of that is that it had the effect, in my opinion, of making Daredevil seem a little bit too weak. In terms of how his powers worked, in terms of how his fighting worked. It was very gritty, it was very down to earth. But when we see these other characters that also don't have, well, sorry, first of all, Daredevil does have superpowers, and I don't think that they did a good job of portraying his superpowers because, again, budget. But even if you say, well, he didn't have like super strength or super agility or anything like that, I think that when you compare him to someone like Black Widow or, well, Cap obviously has super soldier, but like certain, I just think that the way that the fight scenes were depicted in Marvel Studios, when you had like powered characters and non-powered characters, or characters with tech and those kinds of things, I just think that their powers more glossy, and the way that they were portrayed was of a higher end. And I think that what I would definitely want is for Daredevil to be positioned as sort of a top tier fighter, and not just kind of like, yeah, it's a guy, he's just wearing a little bandana on his head, and he's just, he's gritty, he's a tough guy.
I feel like with the Netflix Daredevil, we got a lot of telling us what his powers were, because there really wasn't a budget to show us how he sees the world. It was just kind of like, I can hear someone screaming 6 miles away, from a basement, like, or he puts his hand to a door and, we're just supposed to know that he knows how many people are on the other side of the door, things like that. But like across the Netflix series, like I feel like they, it always felt more like budgetary concerns than plot concerns as to why like Iron Fist couldn't just Iron Fist all the time. Things like that. So
but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny though, because we talked a little bit offline about like Agents of Shield, for instance, which also had budgetary constraints, but they managed to still portray superpowers because their aesthetic was trying to kind of match the general MCU aesthetic, at least part of the way.
Right.
And I think that was to their benefit, because it wouldn't be as hard, I think, to incorporate the Agents of Shield people into the MCU if you'd wanted to go that direction as the Netflix people.
I will say what I'll miss if they do this like they do all of their other projects, with the exception really of Hawkeye, is I'm gonna miss the New York of it.
You mean actually doing movies that are set in New York? In New York, yeah.
Yeah, like there was something very Law and Order about those shows where it's like every actor on this series is great because they're all New York actors. They get pull New York actors to play every bit role. Which if we're doing the Atlanta thing where some shots are in New York, but for the most part it's all green screens and whatever, that'll be kind of a bummer, honestly, because New York felt like New York in a way that
I mean, it didn't. I mean, it was New York.
Right.
That's very important. Where as a New Yorker, actually seeing them like in the trailers, at the locations. Yeah.
Compare that to like the birthday party that Peter Parker goes to in Homecoming.
Queens.
Where the hell was that? Yeah,
Queens,
it was Georgia.
Yeah, there's a lot of Queens, Georgia happening in the. Yeah, that is a downside, but I feel like. Yeah, it was just an era that we'll never have back.
I mean, maybe they do the Hawkeye thing and they shoot the whole thing in New York, or externals in New York, exteriors in New York. Maybe, that'd be great.
The reason I think they won't is because like Hell's Kitchen's not really a thing anymore.
True.
So if they're gonna like make up a Hell's Kitchen, they could just make it up in Georgia.
That's true.
Julia, do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts about the New York of it all?
This topic's been going on for a while.
Fair enough. Well, we should transition.
But I did think. But yeah, I guess I agree.
The other big Marvel news. Wait, sorry, Julia, what did you say?
No, I'll DM you after we do this podcast or tomorrow morning, but it's okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
All right. Well, like I said, the other big Marvel news of the week was we got our trailer for She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And just so you know, this podcast is brought to you by the letters C, G, and I for no good reason. But we won't talk about that. What we will talk about is the fact that the trailer got 78 million views in the first 24 hours. Wow. I would put it at the number 2 in terms of trailer views. What were you guys' overall thoughts, not counting the CGI of it all, on the trailer? I'll start with you, Julia.
It looks good. It looks fine. The character seems cool. They haven't really shown us anything much about the plot yet. They're mostly showing off her. And I mean, other than the visuals, which we're not going to talk about, she seems pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that.
Now, are you a big She-Hulk fan from the comics?
I've read a bit with her in it. Like, I think there's another one I have that I haven't looked at that she's in, so I'll be looking at that. But I know her from like a couple things, and she seems cool.
Okay, yeah, I'm a huge She-Hulk fan from the comics. So I've been advocating for a She-Hulk series for about 10 years. So
I think it's funny that a lot of these people who don't know anything, they're like, "Oh, what? We have a woman Hulk now?" As if she hasn't been around for like years and years.
Ridiculous.
That's quite funny.
Yeah, whenever people like let their agendas get in the way of their like what they should know about the comics from literally one Google search. Um, it's always like a combination of like baffling and hilarious. What about you, Carlos? What did you think about the trailer?
I think the trailer looks good. It looks like a funny adult show. And I'm here for that. I don't know much about the character outside of like, Wikipedia paragraphs, like backgrounds. I haven't read a ton of She-Hulk, so I'm kind of a blank slate for it. I'm interested to see where this takes place in the timeline.
Fair.
I have questions about Hulk, like that they've shown us in this trailer. Like, when is this? And like Julia said, there hasn't been a ton about like the plot of it. So I'm interested to see how that works out.
I feel like this is gonna be less plot heavy because it's like 10 or 9 shorter episodes.
Right.
So it's more like just, I don't know, like I don't want to say slice of life, but like just kind of getting to know the character, her origin. It's just kind of vibes. I don't know, but I agree that it's good that it's an adult series, especially coming after Ms. Marvel. Like, it's good to have that contrast.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and one thing that I always thought, and this feels like it lines up vibes wise, is that if you're gonna do a She-Hulk series, you want to almost like model it after Ally McBeal. In the sense of it being a legal dramedy, but also a story about kind of like a professional woman like finding her way in the world, because that's a big part of Jen Walters' story, that she's got these powers that allow her to, like, not these, I mean, she's got the powers obviously, but she's got this new persona that allows her to be someone that she's not ordinarily. And and figuring out that balance of like, is this the real me, or is this the superhero, the gamma persona, and how much of it do I want to like accept? It's a ultimately it's like kind of a story of like self-acceptance through the Hulk of it. And and I think that one of the cool things about some of the comic runs is that they take that story and then they marry it to the idea of practicing superhero law, which can be really fun. It's like, again, this is me in my own like life as a comic book fan that's also a lawyer, like thinking about those issues all the time and being like, I wonder what it would be like if, in a world with superheroes, like how would these, laws work? How would it be, if you had the Hulk run through your apartment? Like, can you sue for that? Like it's and those kinds of things. So I'm glad, hopefully, that there's the opportunity to explore that. And being that it is going to be kind of 9 episodes rather than 6, we here are strong advocates of longer seasons. 9 30-minute episodes are better than 6 40-minute episodes in my mind.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, if the basic plot is just an origin story of like her finding by the end of the season that she's going to accept her, being both a lawyer and a superhero, that's enough. That works for me.
Yep.
But yeah, we should at some point, I'll kind of give you guys some like pointers on like some good runs. Like, I'm a big fan of the oh my god, I'm just drawing a blank on the writer. The
Dan Slott.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the Dan Slott run. Yeah, because the John Byrne run is like more celebrated, but it's of its time. It's more, like ladies, early 90s. And they do a lot of cheesecake stuff in that run that doesn't completely hold up.
I see.
Whereas the Slott run, has more of the fourth wall breaking, the self-referential, and then also the sort of tying into the superhero practice. Subsequent runs are like kind of more on the legal side of things, and those are cool too. but it's less kind of fun and more. Well, it's still fun, but it's like less. It's like I think that the slot run has the right balance of like it's a lawyer, it's self-referential, and it's also a superhero story with with the right brew. But and yeah, most people have said that they're drawing from that run, so I'm looking forward to it. And that's I think we definitely got an official date for that, right? That's August
17.
August 17th.
Yeah.
So less than 3 months away. And that's She-Hulk, guys.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Looks fun.
Keeping things in the milestone territory, the Marvel milestone territory, you might as well talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Money. And they've just hit their $800 million global milestone. So just keep on pushing. They're the number two movie of the pandemic era, the still the top movie of the year, of the calendar year.
You're welcome for my $17, Marvel.
I mean, yeah, I went and saw it on that wacky Screen X format.
Oh,
There's like there are 3 screens, one in front of you and 2 on either side. And I gotta say, that's a special. Yeah. I mean, it was cool. It was for like 5 minutes,
yeah.
but it didn't feel as immersive as I hoped it would.
I want to see. Well, I like the idea of is it the 40X ones? The ones that are like if they spray you with water. But
Yeah.
like I feel like I would hate that. I feel like the novelty wears off real quick.
So I had the option of
for like a short and like a theme park kind of a thing, that's fun. But for a movie, yeah.
I feel like if I go see Top Gun Maverick in that, I'm going to just throw up from all the the rocking and and the wind blowing in my face. I'm just gonna barf.
So the theater that I went and saw it on Screen X, they also have 40X. So I had the option of doing either or. The only movie that I've seen on 40X is X-Men Apocalypse. So I don't know if the nausea was because of the chair rocking or because I was watching X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah, my chair was rocking, but it was mostly me just in sadness. No, what are they doing to my beloved characters?
Man, that's a rough one. That really is Oscar Isaac. How do you fumble that? I don't even.
I mean, you fumble it by being Fox.
It's true.
Fumble it by being Fox. But let me go ahead and award some bonus points before I forget. The She-Hulk trailer. Gonna give it 2 points for that milestone, and I'm also gonna give it 5 points for the trailer, which also included the other Hulk. So let me get on that, guys. Sorry. Go ahead and vamp.
Julia, what's your favorite X-Men movie?
I've only seen the first one.
Oh, okay.
I want to see them. Like the first one was so boring to me. I'm kind of hesitant to see some of the other ones, but I've heard they're good. So they're on my, as I mentioned earlier, I think maybe before the call started, watch list of many things that like school and work kind of prevent me because I have to watch stuff for work. So other than that, I don't get to watch that much.
Sure.
So yeah, so I have like a whole list of things, and then there's some things I can watch in the background, some things I can't. So I don't know.
I wonder if the X-Men movies, like if this is your first time watching them.
Oh wait, I know what I've seen a couple. I've seen the Deadpool movies. I guess I can say the first Deadpool.
Okay, yeah. Like
Sorry.
I don't know, like if I was, now that we've come 20 plus years later from the first X-Men movie, I wonder how small they feel even now. Like the first X-Men feels small for 2000. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine what it feels like now. Like to watch it for the first time now would be insane.
So I think the question becomes, if we're going to go down that road, I think the question becomes like, how low are your expectations if you're going to watch the X-Men movies now? Like if you're going to watch them with MCU level expectations, then you're going to have some problems. But if you're like, they made it in 2000. There were some limitations
with that. Just
What did you
like,
say?
I went into it like that. Now the second one I've heard is very good, so have
Well, the second
like
one is definitely better than the first.
I
Yes.
love higher expectations for that. And then the third one I heard is not so good, so I'll have lower expectations for that. And then from there, I don't know. I heard Logan's really good, so
Oh yes, Logan is
yeah,
excellent.
Logan's
that
really good.
one. But I want
But
to
you do
watch
have
it
to
or
you do
watch
have to see
Logan.
the other ones before you see
Yeah,
Logan for it to really
so that's
work.
why I haven't seen Logan yet. But yeah,
X-Men 3, I recently rewatched it. It's awful. But it's not as awful as I remembered it.
Okay.
It's one of those things where when you wanted it to be the best thing ever, and then it was awful, like it's gonna stay in your memory as the thing that destroyed X-Men in your heart. Now that they can't hurt me anymore, um now that Fox can't hurt me anymore, I can just kind of like what I like and mock what I don't like.
okay.
um but
This will shock you, but I went into that third one pretty sure it was not going to be great. So, because I was like, guys, Brett Ratner, are we doing this? Like, are we really expecting a masterpiece from this guy?
yeah, I was
And
still in my like, how could you get the X-Men wrong era? It's so easy. These characters are awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I learned my lesson, which is probably a good transition to the DC side of things.
Oh,
Um, Actually, we only have a couple of DC news. The first one, which is, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Wonder Twins not happening. Wonder Twins not
Apparently that was
happening.
a budget issue or something. Yeah.
Yeah, if by budget issue you mean they never should have greenlit a Wonder Twins movie in the first place,
Well,
sure.
they refused to shell out that much certain amount of money for certain things. They're saying I forget exactly how it went, but yeah. So it was going to cost quite a bit. So
Yeah,
they
so it was greenlit at a $75 million budget, and basically the new ownership, the Warner Brothers Discovery Group, or specifically David Zaslav, the new CEO, is like, no, if this is going to be direct to HBO Max, they want to keep their HBO Max movies at a $35 million budget range.
mm.
And now they could have said, we're just going to make it at 35 million, but they said, hmm, hmm, it's Wonder Twins.
It costs a lot of money to take the form of an icicle.
And
Or
or a green animal.
right, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm fine with this. I probably would be less fine with it if I like believed in the project a little more in the first place. So yeah, no more Wonder Twins.
You know what? I'm actually surprisingly a little bummed by it, just because it was a chance to make something really silly. If that's what the goal was, it could have been something fun and silly. And I can't remember the name of the actress now who was going to be the lead, but like,
Yeah, I mean, you said that you've seen her in some of the like Paramount stuff, right?
there was a Netflix series she's on that my daughter used to watch. It was like a 3-camera sitcom called, I can't remember what it's called, but it actually was like, it's a 3-camera sitcom for like tweens. But the conceit of the show is it's about these two best friends, and one of them is a cancer survivor, and there are moments of like playing serious storylines throughout. And
so the actress's name is Isabel May.
Yeah, okay. She's very like, she's got good chops. Like she's got the skills to play in a bigger sandbox.
The hope is that maybe they'll cast her in something else.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
there's a spot for her. she's got talent.
But she can focus on 1883, which is the Paramount show that that's also coming out. KJ Alpa, on the other hand, can't focus on anything because not in our purview, but Riverdale is in its final season. So KJ Alpa looking for
it's gonna air next year. Surprisingly long running show, because like I thought that was, when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. It was gonna be the kind of thing that was gonna get canceled. Because like, who wants to watch an Archie show from like the teens want to watch Archie these days? I don't know. And then
my understanding is that it's like an Archie show, but like in the modern era.
Oh, I know, but like still, and it turned into this whole crazy, insane thing, and it's wild. So like, good for them for sticking around for so long.
Yeah, I heard someone tweet or read someone tweet that like for the final season they're just going to send all of them to space. And it's like,
Don't they have superpowers in this current
I,
season?
I, it's connected to the what is the show, the teenage witch show?
Oh, Sabrina.
Sabrina,
Yeah.
isn't it like the same kind of universe? Isn't she like in the next town over?
Yeah, they've always been in the same universe, but I don't know how it completely works. But more power to well, literally more power, I guess, to the Riverdale, because they're going to be the Justice League. But
it would have been great if they got the Punisher to come to Riverdale. Like, do you remember
like
that
in that
crossover?
one comic? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Punisher as played by John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal's Punisher. One bitch, two bitch.
Oh man, shout out to John Bernthal, who's killing it on We Own This City.
He's one of my favorite actors. Like he is legit. Like, he can play the tough guy. He's absolutely like one of the most like brutal, kinetic, tough guy actors. But like, if you need someone to play like a policy nerd lawyer, he's also your guy. Like he's got a lot of range. He gets action star, kind of like pigeonholed, but he has a ton of range.
Yeah, I mean, tying it back to what we were talking about the Netflix of it all. As much as I know currently, the Punisher is a little bit problematic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone would say no to more John Bernthal Punisher.
Absolutely not. No, he's fantastic. That's one of the home run castings of the last like 20 years, honestly.
Yeah. Staying in the DC side of things, but maybe a little bit more offbeat. Are you familiar with Bat Wheels?
It sounds like a Hot Wheels Batman boy.
I think that's probably exactly what it is.
It is a animated series that is based around the Batmobile and other vehicles that are anthropomorphic, and they're going on little adventures. Yeah, that's a thing.
Sounds like the Spider-Man show that's on Disney Plus, like for small children, but with cars. Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be talking vehicles, but we got a little bit of casting. Apparently, Gina Rodriguez is going to be joining the cast, as well as Jolo Maradona. So there's going to be some Latino cars. No word on whether they're going to be lowriders. We'll find out.
I actually think Gina is playing Catwoman.
Yes,
that like is not correct. A car.
Not a car. That's interesting.
It is.
But he is going to be playing Snowy the Snowcrawler, which Mr. Freeze is going to have a vehicle.
Yeah, that old car. What new stories can they figure out for this guy?
The iconic, right? I don't know Tom Kenny. Apparently, he's associated with SpongeBob.
He is SpongeBob. He's a voice god.
Yeah. Oh.
So did Ice King and Adventure Time and some other ones.
Yeah.
So apparently the evil group of cars is called the Legion of Zoom.
That's awesome. That's great.
So there you go. The evil version of the Bat computer is, I guess, the bad computer. So puns abound. So, go ahead, Bat Wheels. Do your thing in the DC universe. It's going to be on HBO Max this fall. HBO Max and Cartoon Network this fall. So vroom vroom.
Is that what it says on the poster? Vroom vroom.
I missed a little bit of Disney news that I'll circle back onto. We got directors for Echo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got Sydney Freeland and Catriona McKenzie. They're going to be directing the series. That series, which I think is going, we still don't know exactly when, right?
Next year. It'll be next year.
Okay. So yeah, we got a little Echo news. Before the Daredevil news was confirmed, there were a lot of people who were looking forward to that series for Daredevil, which is kind of weird. But hopefully they'll be looking forward to it for Echo.
Honestly, I'm curious just to see how do you do a show where the main character is deaf. I just want to see how they're gonna quote unquote play with that concept. Like I'm interested. I'm in.
I'm learning
I mean-
ASL right now, so that's kind of fitting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they do some really creative things, especially, we just got oh, sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the movie. The Oscar-winning movie called Coda.
Geez.
Coda. Yeah, we just sorry guys. Drawing a blank, too much alcohol. We just so we just got Coda, and I think that they did, really some cool things with representing hearing impaired people on that. So the hope is they're not going to, skimp when it comes to the depictions. Plus, obviously, we're gonna get the cultural representation because of Sidley Freeland, who worked on Reservation Dogs. So I think it's gonna. I'm feeling good about the project. Probably we'll fall victim to the 6-episode problem if it's still 6 episodes.
I suspect it is.
Yeah, but maybe 5 of the 6 episodes will be awesome before it all falls apart at the end.
Listen, as long as they keep getting all of the praise on the social media, they'll never change it. So
you said as long as they get the what?
As long as they keep getting all of the praise on the social medias, people saying that was perfect, no matter what, then they'll never change that, because why fix what isn't broken?
Yeah, even if it's broken.
Even if it is in fact broken. Why fix what no one will admit is broken? How about that?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of not fixing what isn't broken, Stan Lee, the late Stan Lee, signed a contract. Well, he didn't. That would be weird. Stan Lee's likeness has been signed over to Marvel Studios via his organization, POW Entertainment, and Genius Brands, who I think also bought into Stan Lee's likeness. And, obviously, again, Stan Lee's passed away, but there is still demand for more Stan, and Stan will live on in various forms across theme parks, in video games. His voice will appear, and money will change hands. Maybe not. Who knows who should get said money, but money has changed hands and will change hands, as Marvel controls now for 20 years the ability for us to get more Stan Lee in our lives. The ghost of Stan Lee. How do you guys feel about it?
I think it's real gross. Yeah, it's gross. Don't do this.
I think that it could be gross. I definitely think it could be gross. I also think that Stan is so synonymous with Marvel that it's more of a situation where they were going to employ some facsimile of Stan at some point. So it's just a matter of them actually paying for his likeness rather than trying to get around paying for his likeness.
I don't know. I just think if you're going to show me old footage of Stan Lee or something like that, it's different. But I don't.
But that's the thing. Old footage would still require you to get the rights to his likeness.
Yeah, and see, they're so okay. There is a respectful way to do this that that's cool. But I'm picturing when I'm saying they're getting their likeness, I'm picturing I'm going to watch a Marvel movie and there's going to be a CGI Stan Lee cameo, which I don't need because that's not a cameo. He's
right.
Dead.
Whereas, and I think that that's a lot of how it's been reported.
Yeah.
Whereas they have the legal right to do that now, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do. Sure. It's like when you acquire the likeness rights, you acquire the ability to kind of, use it as you see fit.
Sure.
But I think that they're smart enough to know that there are certain things that are disgusting and certain things that are going to be, that's going to create a backlash. People aren't going, whereas, in a Stan Lee in a video game, Stan Lee cameo in the new Spider-Man video game, probably not negatively received.
Sure.
Stan Lee's voice on a ride in the Marvel whatever in Disney World, probably not going to be negatively received.
Right.
Archival footage of Stan Lee, in a one of those fanfare things, those Marvel fanfare things. You know what I mean? Like there's respectful ways that they can use his likeness and have it not be gross. And the hope is that that's the direction that they go in, even if the reporting has been, hey man, you never know, they could do deep fake Stan Lee and we'll all be creeped out in the uncanny valley,
Well, that's all. I mean, that's definitely what we're thinking, just because that's what they did with, well, they did it with Carrie Fisher before she died, but like that's what they did with the guy who played Grand Moff Tarkin in the Star Wars movies, and like
true,
it's the same
like
parent corporation. It is still.
I mean, but I guess with Stan, it's always been like a goodwill thing. Like he's not playing a character.
Sure.
Like the Stan Lee appearing in a Marvel movie has never been necessary. It's always been about just kind of like, hey, it's Stan, he's cool,
Right.
So whereas with Grand Moff Tarkin, the choices are basically, no more Grand Moff Tarkin, or you recast Grand Moff Tarkin, and we'll talk about that a little later because we're actually going to talk about Star Wars.
Okay.
So it's like that's more of a like a discussion when it comes to like how are you going to bring a character when the actor is not alive anymore. Whereas with Stan Lee, I think it's really just about the fact that Stan Lee, more than any other person, is associated with the Marvel brand. So I think it's just more of like a goodwill thing. And it is unfortunate because I did a little research into like the POW entertainment thing, and the other group versus like his family who he's estranged from. Like there's a whole bunch of like questions as to like who should profit from Stan Lee's likeness, and it's really unclear.
I have to head out in a few minutes, just saying, so if there's any topics for this that you think I'd be good at,
all right,
I don't know, because I'm getting tired and I'm checking out some things on my laptop, so
we're almost at the end, but we'll talk a little. Are you a Star Wars person, Julia?
a little bit.
You said a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
as one of the big stories of the week that we learned is that John Watts, I am taking a break from Marvel and Spider-Man, is producing a series in the Star Wars universe. No word on the name of the series, but it's gonna be basically a coming of age series set in the involving young, I believe, Jedi, but maybe not. Just some young people set during the time period of the Mandalorian. I think some people evoked like the Amblin, Steven Spielberg-ish style. So Stranger Things is what I'm hearing.
Right.
I am hearing Stranger Things in the Star Wars universe, which is a pitch that would definitely get your project made. Do you have any thoughts about that, Julia?
It sounds good. I'm all for new stories being told in Star Wars. They keep saying they're gonna get away from Skywalkers, and somehow the Skywalker people always end up coming back. So it'd be nice to see some new people, because like Star Wars doesn't feel as much of a sprawling universe to me that Marvel does, and I feel like they want to be that, but then they get too scared to do it, go all out on it. And I would like to see them go all out on it because it just feels like, I don't know, it feels so small in comparison to like the scope of.
Yeah, so I think
And I know
part
they're
of
not the same thing, but yeah, it's a little weird that everything in Star Wars is focused on these characters, I guess, when there's so many other, they made so many movies, and that's a weird thing to say, but it's like,
no, I
I
agree.
totally agree with that. I think that even with all of these series coming out, it's like, how many times can we be on a desert planet? How many times, like it feels much smaller. That's why Mandalorian season 2, no, sorry, Freudian slip, Book of Boba Fett that becomes Mandalorian season 3, where like the first time you see him, he's on a planet where like it's like a big ring and like there's sun every half hour and then darkness every half. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. That's something different than desert for as far as the eye can see. Everything feels smaller in Star Wars right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I think part of it is that, like, even though Star Wars has existed for like 50 years, it's been, and Kathleen Kennedy talked about this in her Vanity Fair article that you guys all should read. She talked about the fact that Star Wars has been like one continuous story for this time, and the pitfall of it being this one continuous story has been, the fan base itself being kind of reluctant to explore beyond it.
Yeah.
And one thing that's majorly I mean, we talk a lot about, and then there's controversy about like Marvel having a tone, having a palette and a style that makes it consistent. Well, Star Wars definitely has that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like trying to make a Star Wars thing that doesn't feel like Star Wars is going to get a major backlash. And it's a delicate dance. You want to get out from under the Skywalker template. But then if you try it, like a big segment of the fan base is like, this isn't Star Wars. So it's hard. It's hard to figure out like how much is new, how much can they be new while still being familiar.
Yeah, like if you make a Star Wars movie, there better damn well be a fight scene at the end near an endless pit in the middle of a ship. Like there better be, and something better fall down that pit so that we know it's endless.
Yeah, John Williams has to do that score. There better be a Jedi. There better be some cute droids. Someone's got to have a bad feeling about this.
We better be building up to some sort of weapon that can decimate planets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Preferably some sort of star of death.
Right.
Like apparently that's the only technology that they have that is a planet destroying laser.
The Empire fell because of a lack of imagination.
But then we learned that the same technology that created the Death Star is also the technology that creates a lightsaber. So it's the same crystal.
Just a big ass lightsaber.
It's a big ass lightsaber. It's lightsabers all the way down.
Oh, that's it.
It's the Russian doll of lightsabers. Yeah. That's the Star Wars universe. So I mean, it's tough. So I'm looking forward to again, read the Vanity Fair piece when they talk about some of the pitfalls of revisiting hallowed ground of Star Wars characters while
I
trying
to go to sleep, you guys.
All right, Julia, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging on. I know it's a little bit of a late night. It's always a pleasure. Let the people know where they can find you and where they can find your work real quick.
At Julia Delbel on Twitter. I'm usually tweeting out my latest stuff, and I have the sites I work on there. So, just go to Julia Delbel on Twitter. It's all there.
All right, Julia Delbel on Twitter, guys. Look for it.
See ya.
Good night. But yeah, I mean, that's a Star Wars thing. It's a tough thing because I was one of the people that when Disney acquired the property, especially as someone who was a big reader of the expanded universe, like I was like, let's go, let us MCUify this thing, no more trilogies, just do Star Wars stories in the universe. And they did another trilogy and mixed results. But
it's a trilogy in that there are 3 movies. I would not call them a connected story whatsoever.
They said that there was. They said it was.
Right.
Whereas The Mandalorian is very much in the vein of what I was hoping they would do. Not opposed to the things that Rogue One was awesome. Even Solo, like very underrated movie. But
At this point, it's underrated. My only issues with Solo is actually that it connects to the greater saga. It just
yeah.
shouldn't. Like the point, his arc in Solo is like, he goes from being like a smuggler or whatever with a heart of gold to being the guy who shoots first. But like he also, without him, the
The Rebel Alliance doesn't
the
exist.
Rebel Alliance doesn't work without what he did in Solo. So then what is his arc in the New Hope? He's already done this.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I don't like about Solo. If it would have just been any other, any other
Heist.
story that just didn't connect to the
Or
main
even if he didn't know, or even if he know.
sure, whatever. Like, yeah, but the fact that it's like this story takes place approximately 3.5 weeks before A New Hope, it just really, like, it undercuts, it does the worst thing that a bad sequel can do, or a bad prequel can do, is it undercuts the movies that come after it, to the point where you almost have to ignore it if you want to enjoy things the same way. But like, I think Rogue One is like probably my favorite Star Wars movie, and it's the one that connects the least to the saga in terms of like
characters.
We're not following a Jedi, we're following the rebels. And while it does obviously connect to literally the first crawl of the first movie, it does feel somehow oddly the least connected.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about Rogue One is the tone of it. Like,
Yes.
it actually, especially, and this gets awkward for people, and I understand if it will, but like, when you get into the meat of Star Wars as a Iraq war,
Yeah.
what's the word? What I'm looking for?
Allegory.
Like, allegory. Thank you. You know, Lucas tried to do that in the prequels, and it didn't always work for me.
Sure.
But like in Rogue One, it definitely works, and it gets people uncomfortable when you have like, oh yeah, they're terrorists, guys. They're freedom fighters, but they're also terrorists.
I mean, I just heard an interview he was doing with, and I don't know when it was recorded, but it's him and James Cameron, and James Cameron's talking to him about the politics of the first trilogy. And he's like, our main heroes are the rebels. Like, they are the ones overthrowing, the empire. We would call them terrorists today.
We would call them insurgents, is what we would.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, that, they're the Viet Cong. It's like, oh, he's like, yeah, that's what was going on at the time, basically. And that would make the empire us. So,
especially when you add in the idea of like the Jedi as a religion, right? So now you have like these like religious, I mean, granted, there aren't that many Jedi like to really kind of go in,
right?
But it's like, if you wanted to flesh it out as like, oh, so you guys want to establish a like religious based rebellion and a return to a rule of a faith.
Right. To me, that's the greatest like fumbled bag of the sequel trilogy is you had this real opportunity to change the perspective of your protagonist and your antagonist. Like, now the rebels are the empire is what it should have been, but somehow, even though the first Republic, is that what are they called? No, there's the First Order and the
Rebellion.
But why are they the rebellion if they've won?
No, sorry, the Resistance. So there's Resistance.
They shouldn't be the Resistance. They are. Yeah, they are no longer the counterculture. They are their culture.
Yeah. So, and that's where I think that's where they screwed up, right? Because like I like the idea that, like, because we've seen it in our own history, that those of you who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, right? So I like the idea that the First Order are essentially people who were too young to remember the actual empire, and they're like, no, we need to bring the empire back. Like, everybody's super young, and they're like, no, we want to make the galaxy great again, right? That's like that's literally what they're all about. And then you have like the Republic, who are kind of, they don't understand how big of a threat the First Order is until it's too late. You know, and then the First Order becomes the Force. I mean, not the Force, but you know, the Force in the Force in the galaxy. They become, you know, they've been like spending the last 30 years biding their time until they can overturn until they can overturn the events of the first trilogy and get back into power.
What do you mean they have a 6-3 majority of the Inquisitors?
Exactly.
When did that happen?
Right. So, I mean, and then the Emperor's back like, hey, it's just like I planned it, you know, long game.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, so I didn't mind that thematically, like the long game of, especially because it had been 30 years. Like, you know, as someone who did go in the you know, expanded universe, like those are set like 10 years after, you know, 10 years after the events of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like that also interesting stories to be told in that era, because that's the era, like you said, where they go from being these insurgents, these rebels, to just a bureaucracy that people start to ask themselves, were we better off with the Empire? Like, you know, I mean, no, they weren't, but like I can understand how people might feel that way. You know, and then when you add in the fact that once it gets revealed that like Leia was Darth Vader's daughter, like she kind of loses all of her political clout. It's like, wait. You're in charge, but like your dad was like Space Hitler. Like, why are we accepting this?
Right.
You know? And then, you know, if you think about that, then you can sort of understand why Leia is no longer like, where Leia would be part of this like resistance more so than part of the Republic.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So like, yeah, there's a lot of fertile ground there that
they just didn't tell the story because
they didn't want to tell it. Yeah.
Well, again, if you go in saying, wow, there's 30 years of room to tell everything that happened after the events of Return of the Jedi, and let's have at it. That's much different from let's tell these 3 stories and let's finish it out.
I like the idea I don't remember now if it made it to the final film of Rogue One or if it was just in the trailer, because there's definitely a difference. But there's like a line where the main character, whose name I can't remember now, the woman
Jin. No,
is it Jin? Jin Orso?
Something Orso, yeah.
Jin, her father? I don't remember.
I want to say it's like, I think it's Jin, but it might be like Jalen. No, it's probably Jin.
Where she says something along the lines of like, the flags don't matter if you're keeping your head down. Like
Jin Urso. There we go.
Jin Urso. Okay. Yeah. Like it's this idea that like empire, no empire, it does not.
Oh yeah.
None of this changes
like from right. It's like from where I sit, it really doesn't matter whether it's the empire or and that's real. That's some like real shit.
And that's I think Rogue One and The Last Jedi interrogate that concept. And then but like J.J. Abrams had no desire to get into the sticky wickets there.
But again, I think that if you at the outset were saying like this story is never going to end. I mean, which we knew when Disney bought it, the story was never going to end.
Of course.
Right? So like instead of lying to the people and saying you're going to end the story, you had the fertile ground to expand from those concepts. Like The Last Jedi is not the middle movie of a trilogy. The Last Jedi is the movie that expands the story in a bunch of different directions.
Yes.
And had they just said, yeah, guys, there's episode. I mean, we're doing an episode 9, but like, there's gonna be like a lot more Star Wars.
Right.
Like, don't expect this to be like we will end like where one very specific story, but there's more to come. I think that they, from a storytelling perspective, would have had less pressure. And I think that the people who felt like some of the characters in the prequel trilogy were shortchanged. Like, imagine if they had said, oh yeah, we're doing this this X-Wing movie, and it's going to star Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. So we're going to see more Adventures of Poe. We're going to do another story. It's going to feature Rose and and her mission. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like they gave you these characters that they couldn't possibly conclude their arcs. They really could only conclude one person's arc, and maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we wanted more, and they could have just said, "We're going to give you more."
Yep.
And then they came right back around and were like, "We're giving you more, but not of these guys,"
Right.
which is weird.
Yeah,
weird.
You know, it's too bad that the Mandalorian, timeline wise, takes place like right after Return of the Jedi.
I think it's awesome that it takes place in that time.
Well, just because, like, from a meta perspective, it means that we can't ever get Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac on screen together. Like they're boys, like they're,
True.
Like
True.
unless he's playing Poe Dameron's father.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's like, he's gonna be in the helmet anyway. So it's just like it's gonna be like old Mando, like Mando, right. Like 58-year-old Mando, and like 19-year-old Poe.
You know what? I don't know if the helmet is necessarily, this became Star Wars talk. I don't know if the helmet is necessarily a given anymore. I mean, from a budget standpoint, clearly Pedro Pascal is not there.
Yeah. He is working remotely, like we're all working remotely.
Yes, it is a voice performance, but like but just from a story standpoint, like where they leave off with Mando, like he's been sort of defrocked,
ostracized.
Ostracized.
But he does want to rejoin. So which means he has to go back to wearing his helmet.
But it does kind of feel like what the end game of that story is like, we're going to have to unite all of the Mandalorians,
mm-hmm.
which means there's, which is kind of what The Last Jedi was getting at. It's like, there's got to be a third way. And I feel like that's what Mando is getting to. So like, maybe he doesn't wear the helmet at the end. I mean, it's not.
Or Grogu wears a helmet, which,
that would be weird.
Own kind of awesome.
Where are you putting those ears? Where are you putting ears in that helmet? That's why when people were like, I think he made him a helmet. Nah, bro, there was no, how were they going to fit that?
Yeah. And how is he going to be adorable in that?
Yeah. Helmet? You can't put that helmet on the most adorable creature in the galaxy.
All fair. All right. So we should transition. We somehow, this is what happens. This is why IKEA was very adamant that we should never talk Star Wars on the show. This is what happens when you talk Star Wars on the show. Last story, real quick. Actually, three last stories. We will run through very quickly. Doctor Who. There's going to be a new character, Yasmin Finney, who I believe is trans. She will be a new companion. She will be named Rose, not the same Rose. And she's a Black woman. So good on her.
Good.
She-Ra live action Amazon series. I forgot about this. Gonna happen.
Gonna happen. Amazon. Interesting.
Yeah, Amazon's doing She-Hulk. I mean, sorry, She-Hulk. She-Ra live action. And Nicole Castle is going to be directing it.
Surprised that Netflix doesn't have the rights to that.
Just the animated.
Just the animated. Interesting.
Also, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen rebooted, 20th Century and Hulu.
Cannot be worse than the movie. So,
correct. I'm trying to see whether it's going to be a movie or a series. I'm hoping it's a series.
Yeah, let's hope. Even if it's a movie, it can't be worse.
I mean, it says for Hulu, so I'm guessing, but it doesn't say 20th Century Studios.
See, Hulu makes movies.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm gonna hope that it's a series, because the book was good, and there's enough, at least for a mini series, we'll say.
Yeah.
But that's our stories. Wow, we made it through our 15 stories, guys. And we only got bogged down 4 times. So
probably directly proportional to when I joined the chat, right?
So we'll take a break, and then we'll come back from the break, and we'll talk about our racial draft business. Hey guys. And we're back. Racial draft business. What did you think of the second week of the supplemental draft, Carlos?
I like snake drafts. Everything moved along quite nicely. I enjoyed. I feel like there were at least half defensive picks this time. This
Yeah, I
round.
mean, so here's the thing. I think that obviously there's a little bit less strategy here, in the supplemental, which is good because, like, this one of the things that I talk about every now and then is that I always hope that if people are making a pick, it's not just about the like, oh, how many points is this character going to score? I mean, not that you shouldn't care at all, but try to think about like the fit, of the character, whether you can come up with like a cool backstory for the character, whether you can like make the case so that you get the approvals, you get people to like do the fan art and all that stuff that like touches on the imagination of like how these characters might be imagined. And often defensive picks are the right move. Often there are characters that are important to the culture and you want to maintain them. To that end, I should mention last week we did the red dagger challenge. Just recently the Native American delegation has conceded the red dagger challenge. So the South Asian delegation.
That would be fucked up if it just went to another delegation.
No,
Polynesians.
Yes. So the South Asian delegation will, in fact, receive red dagger via the challenge. The Native American delegation will get a backup draft pick somewhere down the line. Well, at the end of the draft. However, did lose the challenge, or
history was made.
Challenge. Exactly. However, let's quickly go through this week of picks, starting off with Jessica Cruz, defensive pick for the Latinx delegation. Mantis, not a defensive pick.
Correct.
For the Jewish delegation. I will get to it. Judo Master, quasi defensive pick for the Southeast Asian delegation. Sam Guthrie, Cannonball, not a defensive pick. Lucas Bishop, the Bishop for the multiracial delegation, questionable whether defensive or not.
I think that's defensive, right? Isn't Bishop Black and Polynesian?
I question about whether he's in fact Black, but people just assume he's Black.
Oh, okay.
People just assume he's Black. So splitting the baby right there, making him Black and Polynesian.
Got it.
Teddy Altman Hulkling, not a defensive pick. Kingo for the South Asian delegation, defensive. Bonesaw McGraw, defensive.
Doesn't get more defensive than Bonesaw McGraw.
We talked about it last week. It was amazing that he
Bonesaw is ready.
Hisako Ichiki, armor, not defensive. And Adriana Tomaz, we won't say the longtime superhero alias because we don't want to end up on a watch list, but the Swana Mena delegation with another defensive pick, but a defensive pick that is close to our hearts. But so I mean, like you said, there was about half the defensive picks, but these picks are good picks.
I said in the chat, and I'll say it on the pod, that like I'm going to refrain from voting for approval polls unless there are defensive picks, because I obviously approve, or if the drafter gives us anything,
some kind,
literally. I don't need a whole backstory. Give me a sentence and a half of his, why this pick. That's all I need.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it went awry. I admit it went a little awry, but like, at least when we would talk about like fan casts or visual reference, like that would sometimes yield a discussion about like, maybe there's someone who could like bring a little something to the character, reimagined. But guys have been, folks have been a little lazy about explaining why these picks might be better suited, in the racially drafted form. But what we will do, since we get to have fun, is let's play around. Let's come up with our own justifications for some of these picks. We'll start with Jessica Cruz. That was a defensive pick, so have at it. Talk about what she has not yet appeared in live action. Now, I have to admit, I felt some kind of way because the fan art of Jessica Cruz was giving America Chavez vibes, and I'm, having been denied my America Chavez, I am all about this version of Jessica Cruz, even though not canon. Way because here's the irony. Jessica Cruz is a Green Lantern, right? And you know the lore about the Green Lantern is all about willpower, right?
Right.
Her whole deal for like her first arc is that she suffers from anxiety and does not have sufficient willpower to fully take part, or take advantage of the Green Lantern ring, which is very close to my star punching ability only works when I'm afraid.
I was trying to explain to someone who wasn't familiar with America Chavez from the comics, like how much of like a departure that aspect of the character is. And I was like, it would be like if MCU Bruce Banner could only turn into the Hulk when he was totally calm. Like, that's how crazy it is to link it to fear and doubt. Like, she's just
like
not
her
that.
like her most iconic pose is the like, look at me, bring this shit on face.
Right. Right. And just, and the counter obviously for the movie is like, well, it's an arc and she'll get there. It's like Tony Stark didn't have that arc. Doctor Strange doesn't have that arc. They start off so confident that they're cocky, and then they get brought down a peg, and then they get back up.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but here's the thing. Even if you wanted to say, and we don't, there's a whole podcast, we get into this, but even if you wanted to say there's an arc, okay, you know what I need to see at the end of this arc? She's cocky as fuck. That's what I want to say. Like, okay, do the arc.
Yeah.
Where is cocky as fuck America Chavez? Because you know what I saw? I just rewatched the movie. You know what I saw? I'm still a little nervous about my powers. Hey, Doc Strange, you're leaving? You're not gonna, give me a little bit of a pep talk like you did before, so that I can be all that I can be? No, okay. Not my America.
No, she's got to be giving Michelle Rodriguez in every scene. Like, you don't even want to find out. You don't have to fuck around because you already found out.
Yeah.
But So, but getting back to Jessica Cruz, there is a chance here for DC to sort of circle takes the square here. She could drink the milkshake. Yeah, to kind of get steal the Family Feud points. Like, just come and snatch it. Just take it.
There's a chance, but they're not going to do it.
No, they won't do it. We'll see. We're going to see Jessica Cruz in the Super Pets movie, voiced by Dasha Polanco, but
that won't count.
Really. That will not count.
Yeah.
That absolutely will not count.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. She could be awesome. But it's not going to that's going to count to the same level.
No,
absolutely. We it's almost like, when we first heard about the casting, we were concerned that they were going to, really nerf her and make her like a kid, because they cast like a young kid to play her.
Right.
And, it's almost like we predicted this. But
it's almost like when I brought this stuff up in chats that we're both in, and people said, "Oh, you're so negative about everything. It's going to be, have you seen the movie yet? Have you seen it? Are you sure?" Guys, it's a 14-year-old Mexican girl playing a 20-year-old Puerto Rican. Like, it's not going to work out.
Right. And, not to mention a character whose arc was, I had to like go through this hard scrabble life of losing my parents at a young age, and I had to do it all by myself. Like
It's actually a formulaic story that they couldn't even get the formula right.
Yeah. You're right. Anyhow, that's Jessica Cruz, currently sitting at 100% approval rating, because why the fuck not?
100%. All right.
But 11 hours left. So by the time you hear this podcast, we should probably the poll's still open, but don't vote. Don't vote. I mean, vote, but don't not approve, because what's wrong with you?
Randy's not on this one, so we're not going to get the negative voting.
Yeah. The negative for no reason.
I'm going to go downvote it right now.
For why, Randy? For why? All right, but this one, this was rough. This was rough because, like, I was convinced that Mantis was going to end up back with the the East Southeast Asian delegation, especially because of the backstory. I didn't realize this until I kind of did a little research. She's a alien who's also Vietnamese, who's also played by a Vietnamese actress.
Right.
In the MCU, she does martial arts, which, again, stereotypes, but cosmic martial arts. It's fine.
Right.
Like there's a whole like Celestial Madonna thing with the Kotati, which kind of played itself out in about a year ago in the, what's that storyline called?
A year ago.
With the plant people. I wanted to say it was like Invasion, but it's not Invasion. It's Conquest. No, not whatever. The point is, she's a little planty. She had a plant son that decided to lead an invasion against and yet the Jewish delegation acquired her and didn't really explain why. Didn't really explain what was, specifically Jewish Mantis was bringing to the table. So, yeah.
I don't even I don't know how to circle the square on that. I don't.
Yeah, I mean the most we could say is that nothing has changed, and she's just also Jewish. I suppose that works. She's cosmic Jewish. But I got nothing. I got nothing for Mantis. And yeah, currently sitting at 33.3% approval rating. So not a lot of strength in terms of how it's being received in the public. But technically, there is time for the Jewish delegation to like mount some sort of explanation.
I would love to hear some connecting it to the empath or the
Empire. That's what it was called. Sorry.
Oh, look at
that. Thank you for helping me out there.
Connecting somehow the Judaism to her powers or something. Not that it has to, but I'm just wondering, like, what was it? Why this character?
Oh yeah. Bonus points are in order for our girl, the Scarlet Scarab. 100% approval rating for Laila El Fayouli. I would give it 200 points if I could. But that's just me. But I'll go ahead and give the bonus points for Layla, who definitely should be added to the proper Marvel universe. Let's hope that it happens soon. Hope she gets maybe a mini series announced. That would be awesome. The fan art is exploding for Layla. It's really amazing.
An Infinity comic, I think, is at the very least due.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, like, of all the Disney Plus series, I can't think of another character that it's prompted this much fan art.
No, not at all. Ralph Bone, no.
You're not even Mephisto. Mephisto.
Well, no, all of the pictures are of Mephisto, whether or not they are of Mephisto. So
Uh, this one is a little interesting because so I did a little deep dive when I heard about this pick. So Judo Master. We both watched what's his name? We both
Peacemaker.
watched Peacemaker.
Yeah.
I did a very little research when they introduced Judo Master in the beginning of Peacemaker,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of Judo Master. There's like a second Judo Master, his son, and but the first Judo Master, we got to talk about how racist the first Judo Master is, because everything that people think Iron Fist is, Judo Master actually is.
Yeah.
Like Judo Master was created in the early, like, I don't know when he was created actually technically, but like his character comes into prominence in like World War II.
Yeah.
He's a white guy who goes to Japan, wears the Japanese, what's it called, the Empire, the rising, I think it's called like the Rising Sun flag on his suit, and then takes a Japanese person as his sidekick.
Yep.
And he proceeds to be this all-American blonde white hero who's the literal judo master, the master of a Japanese martial art. No real word as to why, how. I think there was a matter. No, honestly, I do think there was a deal where like he like slept with like a Japanese woman who was, the father was like a sensei. You know, he went, he hit like he hit all the mighty whitey tropes.
I like to think that he's like standing in his study one night, and a Japanese guy just comes through the window, and he's like, "I shall become a judo master."
So and then of course, you know, he's judo master back in America, and then has a whole career, and then his son becomes a second judo master because, you know, I learned from my dad judo.
I was looking up the original Judo Master comics, and whatever, it's him fighting a robot or him fighting a guy with a skull face. But then every like 3 images is like him taking out an entire Japanese battalion.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, do they all know judo or do none of them know judo? You seem to want to have the stereotype both ways.
So I feel like in this instance, in order for it to really work, right? This judo master is actually the son of the white guy, and he just hates his dad. I mean, you know, like and maybe he's even no, actually this is even better. So his sidekick was actually Asian.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
So he's actually the adopted son of Judo Master, but the biological son of the sidekick.
Got it.
You know, like, so he's like, yeah, I'm going to take back the Judo Master name from this appropriator who is also my dad. We're not going to talk about the fact that my dad was the original Judo Master appropriator of Asian culture, because I'm just going to kick your ass anytime you bring it up. Like that's like his chip on his shoulder, you know, that he's like, you know, no, nope. I'm Judo Master. I'm not Judo Master Junior. I'm not Asian Judo Master. I am the Judo Master. And yeah, first Judo Master, very racist.
Very like, yeah. Isn't okay. I'm not a martial artist, but isn't judo like a series of throws? Isn't that what it is? Like
I mean, it's throws, and it's also submissions though.
Okay, because there's a lot of like air kicking with Judo Master in the comics. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not, because that's like the joke of Austin Powers when he's like judo chop. It's like, no, that's not a thing. Like,
yeah, it's not.
You would never judo chop. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, like so ironically, like so Ronda Rousey,
Yeah.
the MMA fighter, she's a black belt in judo.
Okay.
So like her, and a big part of her style, because as a like black belt slash gold medalist in judo is like takedowns and submissions, like
Okay.
right, like that's like the striking, not really a big part of judo, but again, racist Americans,
Right.
like, so it's fair to say that while he is a master of judo, he's also a master of other martial arts, but
Yeah.
judo master is the brand.
Right. Right.
But that's how I would, like, if I were bringing judo master, this judo master to the comics, I would just be like, yeah, my adopted father, the white guy that you guys all allowed to parade around the world wearing a Japanese what's his name flag, a Japanese empire flag. You just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I don't approve of any of that, and I'm going to, like, bring honor back to the judo master name.
I think it's way more likely that we're going to get East Asian Judo Master in the comics if we haven't already, but it's just going to be like, wow, that was some crazy crisis. Now I'm the new Judo Master, and we're never going to bring up the old one again.
Yeah, probably. But every now and then it's just good to just to bring up.
Yep.
Things are different now. So currently, sitting at 100% approval rating, but there's still a day or two left. But again, do the thing. Keep voting for
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that one, like Iris West, like at this point, if Judo Master is anything but East Asian, we have failed.
Yeah. Speaking of, no, this one is actually odd. Rom the Space Knight. I didn't know until I did some research that he was a human before he got turned into a robot. And the Polynesian delegation drafted him, and now Polynesian Rom. There it is. And 100% approval rating for Polynesian Rom.
Okay.
I mean, what do you say? I would.
No reason he can't be Polynesian.
And true, no reason he can't be. But like, it would be kind of cool to like hear a little bit about like what Polynesian Rom brings to the table.
Right.
I mean, I guess we could play the make up a backstory game. I don't know enough about different Polynesian cultures to do that, though.
And I don't know enough about Rom the Space Knight. One day, Polynesian man was on a website and it asked him to prove he wasn't a robot, and he realized he couldn't. Click on the tiles that have traffic lights. And he's like, oh no.
And he immediately got turned into a robot. And
it was at that moment.
It was in that moment that Rom the Space Knight was born.
There will eventually be a story that goes like that, where it's like someone's like, wait, am I? And they are.
Oh man. Okay, now this is where we get controversial. I wish Randy were here because I got questions.
Okay.
Sam Guthrie, Kentucky farmer from a coal mining family.
Yeah.
Talks in a very pronounced, very stereotypical Southern hick accent.
Yeah.
It's 10 brothers and sisters. Yeah, I mean, he's pretty well positioned as a Southern white stereotype, and the black delegation went ahead and acquired him. But shockingly, people scratched their heads to that one. Not to say that it's impossible for the Guthries to be black. But I did some research. There are only 3% of coal miners
Oh,
that are Black.
wow. I'm honestly surprised. I'm honestly shocked by that.
That is not that's not a thing that we do.
Your lungs are already black by virtue.
My guess is also that like it's one of those professions where like, you know, they work in close quarters or whatever. So, you know, the white coal mining groups didn't want Black people coal mining along with them.
Sure. And, you know, I guess I think of coal mining, I think of like West Virginia, which is just the whitest place in
I mean, Kentucky's pretty white too.
There have to be Black people in Kentucky, though.
Well, I mean, because it was a Confederate state. Yeah, sure. But yeah. And apparently, like, you know, Sam Guthrie's granddaddy did fight for the Confederacy. You know, that's a thing. That was obviously. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. Not seeing Black Sam Guthrie, not without a lot of rejiggering, as it were.
Damn it. I would actually say that like his whiteness is inherent. It's inherent to the character.
Especially because and this is the other side of it, like his friendship with Roberto, with Sunspot,
right,
like is very much positioned as like, you got your poor white guy, your white trash, you got your rich Black dude, you know, from not even from America, and they're best buddies. And it's like, wow, isn't that weird? You know, they can't be any more different, but yet they're best buds.
Right. That's the whole play. That's how that's supposed to go.
It's like, you expect him to be racist, but he's not.
Right. Exactly. It's you know, it's like it's like when people of different races on like a baseball team are like really good friends. You're like, how does it even work? You don't even speak English. Like, how are you guys even buddies? But they're like best friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So currently sitting at 68.2% approval rating, which is, you know, higher than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would disagree with this one, and we're not for, you know, I need Randy to say something. You know, it's not like my one vote is going to shift it.
The other, sorry, I was watching a basketball highlight and someone just got dunked on. Sorry, but also family chaining. I got to add in like 12 family members that are not going to be approved of.
12 Guthries.
So 12 Guthries, including let's go through some of these names of Guthries, and you stop me when you hear a Black Guthrie.
Is there going to be a Guthrie who's got two first names, like a Joe?
Yeah, stop me when you hear a Black Guthrie. All right, let's go. Josiah.
No.
Thomas.
Okay.
Lucinda
Guthrie. Okay. No, that could be.
Okay. Lucas.
Okay.
Paige.
No.
Jay.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Melody.
Okay.
Jebediah.
There's a Josiah and a Jebediah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Joel. Lewis.
Okay.
Elizabeth. And Sissy
Guthrie. I'm not gonna lie. Some of those could go both ways.
Only because Southern.
Right. Yeah. Like I actually do know a Black guy named Josiah. So that actually.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, that actually could work. But yeah,
I just think the totality of the Guthrie milieu is just it's rough. Yeah, you got to really commit to the bit if you want to convince me that the Black Guthrie, they're the one Black family of coal miners in Kentucky, and they had to endure. Which again, another problem with this is that there's a whole issue of the fact that like only 4 of the Guthries are mutants, but like the other Guthries feel left out of like of being the kids. I mean, like the siblings. So they like try to get mutant powers so they can be like their siblings, which again, Black person. It's like, oh, am I signing up for more marginalization? Is this is a thing? Nope.
Right. Yeah. I think Sam Guthrie is inherently white. I think we found one of the few characters where whiteness is pretty integral to the character.
I would concur here. So let's go, Lucas Bishop. Like I said, generally, technically speaking, he is supposed to be Aboriginal. 2 Aboriginal parents who moved to, he's in the future, so he moves to the United States. They died, of course, because this was mutant and all that stuff. But most people think Bishop's Black. Black delegation probably could have drafted him, and people would have been like, "Yeah, that sounds about right." But the multiracial delegation was like, we got you. Keep the Aboriginal, add a little Black. Everybody's happy.
Honestly, I thought that's what he already was. Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
And currently sitting at 100% approval rating, which feels about right.
Honestly, I voted for it because I thought, oh, that's a defensive pick. So I'm a liar, is what I'm saying.
No. I mean, look, it feels defensive.
Yeah.
And in a way it kind of is, because it acknowledges both parts of the narrative. The narrative of like Black people feeling like he's one of ours, and people who are like, hardcore canon people be like, nah, but well, actually,
right.
Despite the fact that the artist had no idea of how to depict Aboriginal people,
like
he gave him a fucking Jerry curl.
I've said this before. When last season, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, Barry White would clearly play Bishop in an X-Men movie.
Yeah, sure, you're right.
I mean, he's a Black guy in the movies, right?
Yeah,
at least in one movie.
Yeah, Omar Sy.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, I'm here for it. Let both groups be happy with Lucas Bishop. Moving on to the Native American delegation. This is another one where I wish Toriana was here. Teddy Altman, Doric Val, aka Hulkling. Now, obviously, this is a situation where, given Hulkling's origin, the fact that he's an alien and he's a shapeshifter, he really could be anything.
Sure.
That is literally he could be anything situation. He could be raised by a Native American family anywhere in the world, because he is in fact a Skrull Kree hybrid who's green skin. So yeah, I mean, it could happen, but I'm just curious, like, is there an element, anything culturally that Native American Teddy Altman is bringing to the table, or is he just looks different?
Yeah, that's the running theme. What is it about this character? Why this character? Why now? Why didn't you draft this character in the main draft? Like, what is it? What speaks to you about this character?
Yeah, and again, it's not net. I mean, this is one of those situations where it's like he could be anybody. So I'm perfectly. This is again because, let's be honest, the main defining characteristic of Hulkling in terms of like what makes him, like what gives him a lot of his appeal, is that he's gay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So as long as you don't take that away from him, like you're
Correct.
all good. You're all good. You know, I mean,
Sure.
obviously he's like a good looking, like kind of husky dude. Like, you know, you want to like, you know, bring those other characteristics to the table, but like none of those other things are inherently white, you know. So like he doesn't have to be white. But he also like there's nothing that I can point to make him like, oh yeah, I Native American, I can see that.
Correct. Yeah. But
Yeah.
there might be some aspect of the story that speaks to a Native American experience. I don't see it.
I mean, the Cree and the Skrulls are pretty heavy into colonizing
Right. Correct.
He is an emperor. He is the current emperor of the combined Cree Skull Empire.
Yes.
Definitely not informed by his life experience as a colonized person.
Right.
But not saying that's just his own cross to bear. Just...
Right. And he does famously cry whenever he sees litter on the street. So maybe it's that. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, poor Hulkling. That like I've never loved the name Hulkling. Like I love that there was a panel of like him meeting actual Hulk, and like Banner's just basically like, so you're not Gamma involved at all, right? You're just like, no, just a Skrull. Okay. You promise you'll never get involved with Gamma, like in the future? All right, cool. My work is done here.
I mean, and now if they ever bring Hulkling to the MCU, he has to be Gamma, right? Like that's what they did with Miss Marvel. Right?
No, you know what would be even funnier if he was like in a fraternity and he like pledged Gamma.
Yeah.
There was like a miscommunication. They were like
Gammas.
It's like no. I'm just that's my frat. I'm just Gamma. Oh, okay, cool.
Got it.
Miscommunication. Another 100% approval. The South Asian Zandra Naramani from the Shar Empire. And that's mostly because the Shar are brown. I don't know if you noticed that. They're generally brown. And I mean, to my American ears, Naramani sounds like could be a South Asian name.
I agree.
So I am,
or maybe we're both ignorant AF.
Ignorant AF. We'll find out. But sorry.
It's just like when I thought guy who plays Flash Thompson was
Tony Revolori.
Yeah, Revolori. I was like, that's not a
no, I mean, who knew you could just swoop in. But technically, I mean, we know this, right? We know that like Italians in South America is a
sure
thing, but he definitely has played South Asians at least once.
Is that right?
In the Grand Budapest Motel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that he was in that movie and it was cast, I was like, oh, look at them.
He's like a bellhop, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at them, South Asian actor. It's like, no, we gotcha. Fake out.
He probably lied.
He's like, Revolori? No, not Revolori. Revomani. Tony Revolori. Anyway, I will have to put up an approval poll for Red Dagger, remaining South Asian, forthcoming. Hopefully you guys do the right thing and approve.
I think we proved last episode that Red Dagger's it's pretty important that Red Dagger be Pakistani.
I agree. 76 approval rating for multiracial Norman Osborn. I don't know, guys. Like, so I listened to you guys. You're a Ringer verse listener or whatever.
Sure.
So like I listened to the rewatchables episode
For
for
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man for Spider-Man, and they were talking about how like they really needed the black Osborns for the waves, and they but it's like I feel like the multiracial Osborns are even are even cooler in that respect because they still have like the privilege, but they have the melanin,
Right.
and they can talk their shit. It's like he was like, yeah, it was like, look, Peter. I mean, she went to me and she'll never go back. It's like, plus like, Giancarlo's been my fan cast for Norman Osborn for many years now. Like it's just
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of the perfect choice for many.
Yeah.
Villains.
He's from New York. We've definitely seen him at his most charismatic, in terms of like bringing the Goblin, but then you can also see him as like ultra sinister as the businessman. I mean, that's like right in Giancarlo's wheelhouse. Like he's all there. Like, but 76%, so not enough approval for the points.
I feel like if I was using Giancarlo Esposito in a Goblin story, in a Norman Osborn story, I would make it so that you're assuming he's the Goblin the whole time, and then it's just Harry. It's not him at the end. But just because when you watch Giancarlo Esposito, it's like, oh, that's the villain. Clearly, he's the bad guy.
I mean, that is the downside. The downside
Right.
is that there's no hiding the fact that he's the villain.
Right.
That you couldn't play that game. Oh my God, how did that? No, it's like no.
Yeah, exactly.
First scene, he's just right there. Like he takes off the mask and it's like, yeah, it's me.
Yeah. Right. Got it.
But yeah, I mean, that's how like. But I mean, unfortunately, probably not going to get it because more they established in No Way Home that there's no Norman Osborn in the MCU.
At the very least, there's no Oscorp in the MCU.
Fair, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But,
there was an animated series, Spectacular Spider-Man, that ran on Disney XD back in the day, which was my favorite. It's my favorite animated Spider-Man for sure, series at least. And I want to say that that's actually what the season was. It was like he would fight the Goblin, and the whole time you're like, Norman Osborn is like the head of all of the villains come from Oscorp,
yes.
Right? And you're like, okay, so Norman Osborn is clearly the Goblin, and then at the end it was Harry. I think that's the finale is Harry Osborn being the Goblin, and then the show got canceled, and that was like the cliffhanger or whatever. But I think that's a good story. Like, where you think the whole time you're thinking that it's Norman because that's what we know. Norman Osborn is the Goblin.
No, but Harry becomes the Goblin too. I mean, I like one thing I like about Harry as the Goblin is that like that's the necessary payoff of years of Norman basically being like, you're just not meant, like, you're not good enough to live, like, to walk in my shoes, like you can't, and he's just like, he has to become on a certain level, like he has to become the Goblin in order to earn his father's respect, even though his father's dead in his mind. It's like that's part of like the tragedy of Harry Osborn, that he's really not built for it, but he feels like he has to go extra hard to live up to his father's legacy as a supervillain.
And in the Raimi verse, the real tragedy is the butler knew all along the goddamn thing until it was way too late.
Yeah, he's like, oh, wait, should I have told you? Should I have told you the Spider-Man did not kill your dad? My bad. All right. Another defensive pick, Kingo from the Eternals.
Is this a defensive pick prior to the movie Eternals?
No, because Kingo was East Asian in the comics.
Okay. Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with the Eternals.
Yeah. But yes. What's his name? Kamal Nanjiani did his thing, like to the point that people really want to see him in other things. You guys heard about the rumor that he would have been in Moon Knight if they could afford it. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of where I'd like to see come out, show up again.
I want him in something where he can be funny,
Mhm.
because he's very funny. And in Eternals, what he talks about, like Thor used to look up to him and now he won't return his phone calls. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I would love to see Thor, kind of fanboy over Kingo. I think that'd be amazing.
Or like, yeah, you just like pop up somewhere and do some cool stuff and then go away. Like apparently there's some Kingo posters in the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, like from
Okay.
his Bollywood movies.
Okay.
But yeah, that could be fun.
Maybe
Ms. Marvel?
Kamala Khan's families are fans of the Bollywood stuff.
Maybe.
You could see that.
Sure. Or I could at least see her reference it.
Sure.
Like, I mean, obviously India and Pakistan are not the same,
Absolutely
but like,
right.
But at the same time, like I could definitely see people being aware of it.
Right. Yeah.
And, being like, yeah, I know Kingo. Did you know he's an Eternal?
What's funny is funny in Chicago, we have very segregated neighborhoods, as many major cities.
What?
Yeah, right. But like, in the Indian neighborhood and the Pakistani neighborhood, right next to each other. Like,
oh
yeah, it's like you could have chosen anywhere. Of course, now the fact is they could not have chosen.
No. But by you mean the white people who redlined
right.
Is what you're saying. Like,
yeah.
It's like you could have redlined them into any place, but you chose to redline them so that they can replicate their exact border dispute in the city of Chicago.
Right. Cool. Exactly.
All this was a prelude to the fact that currently Sin got 100% approval rating, but there's still time. Speaking of 100% approval rating, if it holds, the white delegation and Bonesaw McGraw.
It's perfection.
I agree. Bonesaw's ready.
I've got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime.
Not getting the approval points though. 84% approval rating for Black Bolt. I mean, again, I feel like that was within the capabilities of the Black delegation. They could have got like Barry White as Black Bolt, like
I just think the idea of like a black guy who doesn't talk in movie theaters, they were just like, it's not, you lost me. I don't believe it.
Oh man, I think we mentioned this last week, but like, all you got to do is let's talk about how the fact that black people are inhuman, and like you get a whole bunch of people who want to strongly approve of that statement. So
he has to sit in the front row so that if he speaks, he doesn't kill anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, Black Bolt. 100% approval rating for the Monkey Prince, which again, defensive pick, culturally resonant, right on point.
Correct.
Yeah, gotta give the Southeast Asian delegation their flowers for the Monkey Prince.
Honestly, that was a pick that maybe should have been made by the main roster, because that little book that he's got going, he scores, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's sometimes the strategy doesn't always play out. Speaking of an East Asian character, but an East Asian character that's not staying with the delegation, Polynesian armor. I mean, I do know that there are Japanese people in the Polynesian islands.
Sure.
So, it's not too much of a stretch. But, but it, kind of hurts. Kind of hurts if you're East Southeast Asian delegation. There aren't too many Asian X-Men, but then again, there aren't too many Polynesian X-Men. So there you go.
Yeah.
So currently sitting at 100% approval rating with a few days left. We'll see how it plays out.
I think the first time I saw Armor was in that X-Men anime. I was not familiar with the character before that, and I was like, that is a cool power.
Yeah, it is a cool power. And that's weirdly enough, that's the kind of power that with CGI, it's not too challenging. Not too challenging for you. Don't have to worry about Marvel changing the powers and certain people having to defend it.
Correct. No, that's a cool power. I like that one. That would be a good video game power as well. Like it's
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like that's a character who should be all over the place.
And currently scrolling through all of the various Guthries who are all getting approved, all getting disapproved. Sorry, Guthries. I don't believe you. You need more people.
I'm gonna family chain Jessica Cruz to see Penelope Cruz,
Tom Cruise,
right.
Cruise Control.
Correct. You got it. Are there any football players named Cruz?
Victor Cruz.
Victor Cruz. There you go.
I don't have any more Cruz jokes.
Hold on. I'm sure there's one there. What's the Carnival Cruise?
Carnival, yeah, nice Carnival Cruise. Crew Love from
Two Live Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. Terry Crews.
Sunday afternoon cruise.
Yes. Obviously D'Angelo cruising.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the final pick we talked about before, Adriana Tomaz, who you have seen, also known as Zari on the Legends of Tomorrow series. You will also see her in the Black Adam movie, playing Adriana Tomaz, the wife / love interest of Black Adam. She too can acquire the powers of a god, unfortunately named Isis.
They should change that to Seal.
Yeah, they're doing what they can to not bring that up. But listen, not too many characters in comic books that are Swana, and it's good on them. And obviously via now, I can't remember, you were a watcher of the DC shows on the CW?
Mostly I was a watcher of Flash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
mild familiarity with the rest of it.
So yeah, so she has a brother who is not in the comics, but a pretty cool character actually, Berad, who's kind of like a stoner / computer guy. Pretty popular.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the show has been canceled, so we won't see him again. But maybe we'll find a way to bring Barad into the comics. So here's the round.
They got yeah. Actress named Sarah Shahi to play.
Sarah Shahi is
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sarah Shahi is going to be playing Adriana Tomaz in the movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So big fan of Sarah Shahi.
Yeah. Me too.
So quick roundup of some characters in there. 67 approval rating for Harry Osborn, multiracial. 70% approval rating for Black Maximus. 63% approval rating for Black Ahura Boltagon, that is Black Bolt's son. 57% approval rating for Black Karnak. 100% approval rating for Black Triton. So the fish guy got approval. Let me go ahead and give him his points. Triton.
It's Trayton. Because he's black. Spell that out.
Triton.
Yeah.
Triton is what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
Or Trishawn.
Sean?
88% approval rating for Black Gorgon. So not quite. And I think we've passed the portion of the approvals. Let me scroll through. Scroll. Not to be confused with scrolls. Oh yeah, there we go, Barad. So yeah, we'll find out next week whether he holds up his 100% approval rating, Barad Tarazi. And yeah, that's it. That's our week of draft picks. We're gonna kick off a whole new week of supplemental draft picks by the time you hear this podcast, listeners. Carlos, let people know where they can find you.
I'm on Twitter at Carlos Freitas Jr.
And you can find me at MTFIII on Twitter. And yeah, don't find me anywhere else. You can find the Racial Draft, though, at Racial Draft Pod on Twitter, at racial.draft on Instagram, and at Racial Draft on Facebook. Yeah, stuff is still happening on Facebook, guys. If you are part of a delegation and you'd like to, get your delegates to maybe make some supplemental picks, go ahead and tag Racial Draft, either the hashtag or the Racial Draft Pod on Twitter, and with your suggestions, and see whether these delegates will hear you out. We're always looking to expand the community. We're always looking to give people voices, particularly from the marginalized communities, to, with regard to comic book characters and superheroes and all that fun stuff. We went a little long today, but we had a lot of geek news. It's a big time era. I mean, Comic-Con season is almost upon us. There's going to be news dropping all over the place. We're still, by this time next week, we will have seen the new Love and Thunder trailer, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to say about that next week. So go ahead and join us for that. Go ahead and follow us, and take part in our discussions. Tell your friends about the podcast. We love that. We love getting more listeners. But don't have that much to add. So I'm gonna say until next time, guys. All things are possible.